2:17 a.m. on February 14, 2019, a security guard working alone inside an abandoned shopping mall in Ohio radioed his supervisor and said something strange. Not that someone had broken in, not that he saw movement, but that a woman had been standing motionless near the old food court for over 20 minutes, staring directly into a closed camera. 7 minutes later, the cameras inside the mall stopped working, and the guard was never seen again. The building was called Westbridge Mall. Located just outside Dayton, Ohio, it had been mostly abandoned since 2015 after multiple anchor stores shut down. By 2019, only 2 businesses still operated inside the entire structure: a small pharmacy near the east entrance and a budget gym that stayed open until midnight. Everything else was empty. Dark storefronts, dust-covered escalators, broken ceiling lights. Most of the mall's second floor had no electricity at all. Local teenagers used to sneak inside constantly, so the property management company hired overnight guards to patrol the building between midnight and 6 in the morning. One of those guards was 29-year-old Ethan Cole. According to coworkers, Ethan was quiet, reliable, and didn't believe in paranormal stories, which is why his final radio transmissions disturbed investigators so much. That night started normally. Security logs showed Ethan beginning his shift at 11:46 p.m. At around 1:13 a.m., he completed a routine patrol of the West Corridor and reported no issues. Then, at 2:17 a.m., he radioed dispatch unexpectedly. Dispatch, there's a woman near the food court entrance. I already asked if she needed help, but she won't answer. The dispatcher asks him if she appears homeless or intoxicated. There's a long pause. Then Ethan responds quietly, "No, she's just standing there." Another pause follows. She's looking directly at camera 14. Investigators later confirmed camera 14 was inactive at the time. It had been broken for nearly 3 months. Ethan should not have known where it was pointing from his position. Police later reviewed the surviving footage from nearby cameras. At 2:11 a.m., Ethan can be seen entering the central corridor holding a flashlight and coffee cup. The hallway appears empty. At 2:14 a.m., Ethan suddenly stops walking. Very slowly, he turns toward the dark entrance of the food court. Then he steps backward. According to investigators, this was the moment he likely saw someone. But the strange part was this: no other camera captured anybody else, not entering, not leaving, nothing. Yet, Ethan's behavior clearly changes. He keeps staring at something off camera for nearly 40 seconds. Then he reaches for his radio. At 2:21 a.m., Ethan radios dispatch again. This time, his voice sounds nervous, breathing harder. The dispatcher later told police this was the moment she realized something was wrong. Ethan says, "I think she moved." The dispatcher asks, "Where?" Another silence follows. Then Ethan whispers, "Closer." The dispatcher tells him to leave the area and wait outside for police. But Ethan doesn't respond immediately. When he finally speaks again, his voice is quieter than before, almost confused. How did she get upstairs? Investigators later confirmed the escalators had been shut off for years. The elevators were also disconnected from power, and the only staircase leading to the second floor was locked with a chained security gate. At 2:26 a.m., cameras on the upper level briefly activate for only 11 seconds. The footage was never publicly released, but according to 2 retired officers interviewed years later, it showed Ethan standing completely still in the center of the second floor hallway looking upward, not moving. One officer claimed Ethan appeared to be listening to something above him, but there shouldn't have been another floor above that section of the mall. Then the video discrete static floods the screen, and for less than a second, another figure appears at the end of the hallway, tall, motionless, too blurry to identify. Then the cameras cut out entirely. Police arrived at Westbridge Mall at approximately 2:41 a.m. They found Ethan's flashlight still turned on near the food court entrance. His radio was discovered upstairs beside the locked stairwell gate, but Ethan himself was gone. No signs of forced exit, no blood, no footprints in the dust outside emergency doors, nothing. Investigators searched the building until morning. K-29 units reportedly became agitated near the abandoned movie theater wing, refusing to continue deeper into the hallway. The official case was eventually classified as a missing persons investigation. No suspects were identified. 3 weeks later, forensic analysts reviewing the damaged footage noticed something most people had missed. At exactly 2 hours, 26 minutes, and 8 seconds a.m., moments before the cameras failed, Ethan appears to slightly tilt his head as if responding to someone speaking nearby. Audio enhancement on the footage reportedly captured a faint sound immediately afterward. Not a scream, not static. A voice, very quiet. According to one investigator, the voice sounded female, and it said only 3 words: "You looked up." Westbridge Mall was permanently demolished in late 2021, but parts of the original security recordings still circulate online today. Most people focus on Ethan, the missing guard, the strange radio calls, the unexplained disappearance. But former investigators say there's another reason the footage was never officially released. Because during the final seconds before the cameras cut out, Ethan was no longer looking at the hallway. He was looking directly into the camera, as if he suddenly realized something behind it was watching him too. In the winter of 2018, a long-haul truck driver called Highway Patrol from an isolated road in northern Alberta, Canada, claiming a little girl had been following his truck for nearly 40 miles. He repeatedly told dispatch the child was impossible to pass because every time he drove around her, she somehow appeared ahead of him again. 20 minutes later, officers found his truck abandoned in the middle of the highway with the engine still running and both doors wide open. The driver's name was Marcus Hill, a 38-year-old transport worker from Edmonton with nearly 12 years of long-distance driving experience. Co-workers described him as practical, calm, under pressure, and not the type to exaggerate stories. On December 14th, he was transporting construction equipment through Highway 63 during a severe snowstorm. The road was nearly empty due to weather warnings, and visibility in some areas dropped below 30 feet. GPS records later showed Marcus had stopped twice during the trip to report black ice conditions. At 1:18 a.m., Marcus contacted Highway Patrol using his hands-free radio system. The dispatcher later stated that he sounded irritated more than frightened. Marcus says, "There's a kid walking alone out here." The dispatcher asks for the location. Marcus reports seeing a young girl wearing what looked like a thin white jacket walking along the shoulder of the road approximately 15 miles south of Redwater. The dispatcher tells him to remain inside the truck while nearby units respond. Marcus then says something strange. "I already passed her twice." According to the dispatch recording, Marcus explains that he first noticed the girl nearly 30 minutes earlier near an abandoned gas station. Concerned she might freeze to death, he slowed down and attempted to call out through the passenger window, but she never reacted. He continued driving for several miles before seeing what appeared to be the same girl again farther ahead on the highway, same height, same jacket, same slow walking pace. Marcus assumed at first that exhaustion or low visibility was confusing him, but after passing her a 3rd time, he became visibly disturbed. At 1:41 a.m., Marcus radios dispatch again. This time, his breathing is heavier. He says, "She keeps turning her head before I reach her." The dispatcher asks if the child appears injured. Marcus replies quietly, "No, but I don't think she's walking." There's a pause before he continues speaking. "I never actually see her move. She's just suddenly closer." The dispatcher attempts to calm him and advises him to pull over at the nearest rest stop. Marcus responds immediately, "I'm not stopping with her out there." At approximately 1:57 a.m., Marcus sends his final radio transmission. Snow interference partially cuts through the audio, but investigators later recovered most of the message. Marcus can be heard whispering, "She's standing in the middle of the road now." The dispatcher tells him to stay inside the truck and lock the doors until police arrive. Marcus responds with something investigators reportedly replayed dozens of times during the investigation. "That's not the problem." The dispatcher asks what he means. Marcus then says quietly, "She's smiling at someone behind me." Officers located Marcus's truck at 2:16 a.m., parked diagonally across the highway with hazard lights flashing. The trailer doors remained sealed. Marcus's wallet, phone, and winter jacket were still inside the cab. Fresh footprints in the snow led away from the truck toward a wooded area beside the highway before suddenly stopping approximately 40 feet from the road. Officers searched through the night using thermal drones and canine units, but found no sign of Marcus anywhere in the surrounding forest. Investigators later recovered a photograph taken from Marcus's phone roughly 4 minutes before his disappearance. The image showed the empty highway through the windshield, covered in falling snow. At first glance, nothing unusual appeared in the picture, but after increasing brightness levels, analysts noticed a small figure standing far ahead near the center line of the road. What disturbed police was the scale. Based on road measurements, the figure should have been over 200 feet away, yet the face appeared strangely detailed in the image. Too detailed for the distance. A retired Alberta highway officer later claimed there was one detail investigators intentionally kept from the public. According to him, enhanced audio from Marcus's final transmission captured another sound immediately after he mentioned someone standing behind him. A second voice, very faint, believed to belong to a young girl. The voice reportedly said only one sentence. "He finally stopped for me." Marcus Hill was officially declared missing in 2022. No remains were ever found, but truck drivers traveling Highway 63 during winter storms still talk about strange sightings near the old Redwater route. According to online reports posted over the years, several drivers have claimed to see a young girl walking alone along the highway late at night wearing a thin white jacket. Most continue driving, but a few claim something far more disturbing happened after they looked in their rearview mirrors. She was no longer outside the truck. On October 9, 2021, a 911 operator in rural Montana received a call from a man claiming his wife had been standing outside their bedroom window for over an hour. The problem was that deputies later confirmed his wife had died in a car accident 3 days earlier. What disturbed investigators most was that the caller never sounded confused. He sounded terrified. The incident happened near a remote area outside Billings, Montana, nearly 12 miles from the nearest gas station. The property belonged to 41-year-old Daniel Reeves, a mechanic who had lived there with his wife Clara for almost 8 years. According to neighbors, the couple kept mostly to themselves. Their nearest neighbor lived over half a mile away. The house sat near a wooded area locals avoided at night because of frequent animal activity and strange sounds reported over the years. 3 days before the incident, Clara Reeves died after losing control of her vehicle on Highway 87 during heavy rain. Police reports stated the crash happened at approximately 11:48 p.m. Daniel identified the body himself the following morning. At exactly 2:43 a.m., emergency dispatch received a call from Daniel's cell phone. The operator later described his voice as shaky and exhausted. Daniel immediately says, "I think someone's outside my house." The operator asks if he can see the person. Daniel replies quietly, "She's standing near the window." At first, the dispatcher assumes it may be a trespasser or possible burglary attempt. But then Daniel says something confusing. "I know it sounds insane, but it looks exactly like my wife." There's silence on the line for several seconds before the operator asks him if anyone else should be inside the home. Daniel responds, "No. Clara died on Tuesday. I buried her yesterday." According to the official transcript, Daniel tells dispatch that the figure outside wasn't moving normally. He says she was standing completely still beside the bedroom window, facing the house, barefoot, wearing what appeared to be the same gray sweatshirt Clara had been wearing the night of the crash. The dispatcher asks him if he's certain someone is actually there. Daniel responds immediately, "She keeps smiling whenever I look away." The operator later stated that this was the moment the call became disturbing because Daniel sounded completely sincere. No laughing, no panic, just quiet fear. Deputies reached the property at approximately 3:02 a.m. Body cam footage later confirmed the front door was locked from the inside. Officers repeatedly knocked before Daniel finally opened the door, looking pale and visibly shaken. According to reports, he immediately asked officers, "Did you see her?" Deputies searched the outside property using flashlights, but found no footprints near the bedroom window, despite recent rainfall leaving the ground heavily covered in mud. One deputy later stated that the area beneath the window looked untouched. No signs anyone had been standing there at all. While speaking with deputies inside the house, Daniel reportedly showed them a photograph he had taken moments before calling 911. Investigators never released the image publicly, but one retired officer later described it during an interview in 2024. According to him, the photo showed a dark figure standing near the tree line, roughly 30 feet from the house. The figure appeared blurry, but the face looked unnaturally pale. More disturbing was the timestamp. The photograph had been taken at 2:31 a.m., 11 minutes before the 911 call. Metadata later confirmed the image had not been edited. Deputies eventually searched the woods surrounding the property after noticing Daniel constantly staring toward the trees behind the house. Roughly 80 yards from the back porch, officers discovered Clara's crashed vehicle keys lying in the dirt beside a narrow walking trail. Investigators confirmed the keys had gone missing after the fatal accident and were never recovered from the crash site. No explanation was ever given for how they ended up near Daniel's property. Before leaving the scene, one deputy reportedly asked Daniel why he waited so long before calling police if he truly believed someone was outside. According to the deputy's statement, Daniel answered with something investigators never included in the official report. He said, "Because at first, she was knocking from the bedroom window." The deputy asked why that mattered. Daniel stared at him for several seconds before quietly replying, "Our bedroom is on the second floor." The case was officially closed with no evidence of trespassing or criminal activity. Daniel Reeves sold the property less than 2 months later and moved out of state. But investigators familiar with the incident still mention one detail they were never able to explain. During the entire 911 call, dispatch audio picked up a faint sound in the background every few seconds. A soft tapping noise, consistent, rhythmic, coming from glass